deal here. We have a rigged country. We have a country that's corrupt. We have a country that's got no borders. We have a country that's got nothing but problems. We're a nation in decline, and then they do this stuff. And you see where the people are. We love the people, and you see where they are. You see the crowds and everything else. We have a country that is in decline like never before, and we can't let it happen.
Normally, I'm against electing comedians to political office. And keep in mind, I ran for president twice.
15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden. The foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden.
That is so brave. I am personally inspired by his example.
National defense. And let's put in espionage. We can kind of tie it into the Russian collusion so people will say, oh, it could have been the Russians. This is nonsense. And I want to know, how many documents were altered? How many documents were destroyed? Zero. But who destroyed 33,000 documents that she lied about over and over again? Hillary Clinton.
Missing witness from the House GOP's Biden family corruption probe is alive and well. Former Israeli Defense Force Colonel Gal Luft revealing that he's been living as a fugitive in an undisclosed location. This, as former
months that we've seen in polling from Republicans suggests that they're going to stick with him, that it's more of a cult than a political party at this point, and they're going to stick with their leader.
Learns. I had not heard her say that. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. Judge, feel free to comment on anything on the court or not. I just can't believe she just said that.
She never learned.
I want to talk about the international Biden crime ring cabal that controls the Biden crime family stack of cash.
They're being protected, and it's a one-sided system. It's a very unfair system, but they're being protected. Look at the time that Biden said about the $1 billion to get rid of the prosecutor. Now, can you imagine if I said that? $1 billion to get rid of the prosecutor. You talk about tape. That's on tape. That's so illegal what he said.
Beautiful and relatable words. Himself, he's quoting famed Ukrainian poet Garfieldomir Dekatsky.
Again, I think it just underscores why we need to make this document public. I understand where the FBI has been. First, they wouldn't even acknowledge that this 1023 form exists. Now, remember, it's a form they created. They talked to the source. They put this form together. It's an FBI-created form. First, they wouldn't acknowledge that it exists. Then they said, well, it exists, but you can't see it. Then they said it exists, but you can't see it. Oh, well, actually, we'll let the chairman and the ranking member see it. Then they said, oh, we'll let the full committee see it. Let the whole country see it, particularly now that we have from Senator Grassley the idea that there's 17 tapes.
Today, I'm announcing the United States is targeting the main artery of Russia's economy. We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas.
Take that, Vlad. America doesn't need your klepto crude. America is perfectly happy to stay home and frack ourselves blind.
The deplorables and the
deplorable. Well, we're all a basket of
God.
deplorables, and she hates us. I mean, if you support Donald Trump, you're part of a cult. I mean, you have no control over yourself. Look, I think today was a sad day for America. I really do.
Let me tell you, Jackoff.
The Russian ruble is now down to 50%. By 50% since Putin's announced his war. 1 ruble is now worth less than 1 American penny. 1 ruble is less than 1 American penny.
I hate a country that is akin to a third world country. This is a banana republic.
Serious, I'm not joking here. That penny, it ain't worth it used to be. Okay, back in Scranton in 19, forget about it. A shiny Abe would get you 2 tickets to see the Rialto for a talky old Chucky Chaplin giving the Kaiser the what for over the old good and plenties.
Now, this is a crime syndicate that is vast, spans over many companies and many members of the Biden crime family. So, it's kind of hard to keep up with the red strings that go from the various pins to the various other pins, on the proverbial pin board.
So he met with 4 FBI agents and 2 Department of Justice prosecutors in Brussels in March of 2019 that Hunter and Jim Biden had received millions of dollars in payments from this Chinese company. Hunter Biden had an FBI mole who had tipped off the Chinese that there were these indictments coming up. He'd gone to Cyprus for a few days and he got arrested the FBI had put out a warrant by Interpol for his arrest. He was in jail, denied bail. He basically escaped, and people thought he might have been dead, but he contacted me and said, rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated.
Wow, and now he's in an undisclosed location because he went to authorities, he has this information, and now he has to hide for probably the rest of his life. It's unbelievable. Maybe this is what the FBI is talking about. They don't want to give over that document to Comer because they said it could jeopardize an ongoing investigation or it could affect people's lives. Pretty scary. Thank you so much, Miranda.
This is the most devastating attack since Fidel Castro put JFK in his burn book.
And I'm not done yet. I'll tell you something else. This whole thing with Ukraine, why the heck is everybody going to Ukraine? Why do we put billions and billions and billions of dollars into Ukraine? What the heck is going on over there?
Meow. Wow.
We finally get a 1023 from a credible FBI source. Credible, $200,000 worth of credibility the FBI paid him, saying Joe took $5 million, Hunter took $5 million from Ukraine to check out education. And Joe Biden goes over there in January of 2018, and he says, if you don't get the prosecutor off that company where my son makes $80,000 a month, and if you don't get rid of him, I'm not going to give you the $1 billion that the United States promised you.
She's also incredibly brave. She is risking the anger of the only force scarier than the Russian army.
Yeah, and why wouldn't they? It's not classified. And from what I understand, and obviously I haven't seen it, you haven't seen it, but if it's not classified, have you seen it unredacted?
No, good point. I have seen it, but it's redacted.
Right.
And that's another question. It's not a classified document.
That's exactly where I was going.
Why would they redact that section? Why would they redact? Because
exactly.
I tell you what happened. If I could, that section, that's the same section where the source is talking to the foreign national, and the foreign national, the source says, hey, you better quit dealing with the Bidens. Trump's won the election. You better quit dealing with the Bidens. And the foreign national says, nothing to worry about because we've used so many different bank accounts, they'll never catch us. And also, we never paid the big guy. So now you have a business partner of Hunter Biden saying, using the term 10% for the big guy, and you have the person allegedly paying Joe Biden saying we never paid him directly.
I've said from the time we first heard this last week, I don't believe that any documents have been destroyed. I haven't heard that anyone was given access to documents, and I think that the broad brush espionage claim is something that, Americans instinctively and intuitively feel that, oh my God, he's anti-American. Well, I don't know of anyone who is more pro-American, but there is no evidence.
And women and children can leave.
But basically, what it is that Biden, as the head at the top, has cultivated relationships around the world where he has funneled money into various companies that have then paid off various members of the Biden crime family.
The problem is that Donald Trump is doing things that are unprecedented, and we don't know that these documents weren't compromised. We heard about that there were two Chinese national intruders. We know that he waved around a classified document in front of Mark Meadows.
Now you care about Chinese nationals.
But what are you...
Done messed up now. You made the moms mad.
Deflection that goes on when I say something about China and you go fang fang, or I say something about this and then you just throw out Hunter Biden's a crack addict. Who cares? Talk about what happened today. Talk about the indictment and don't make up things. Use legal experts.
That's a good transition. Jesse, talk about the indictment.
I'm glad. But before I get into the act, which I have right here, you said something that the Trump voters are immune from taking in new information. That's such BS, Jessica, because we're actually learning about the Presidential Records Act. We're learning about the Espionage Act, and we're actually making legal arguments and using precedent and comparisons to how the Justice Department has treated Democrats. So the fact you're saying we're just saying I don't want to know. You're the ones that don't want to take in any new information. You're the ones when you show bank records of the Chinese lining the pockets of 9 Biden families, you don't even want to talk about it. You don't want to acknowledge the fact that there could be tapes of Joe Biden talking to the Burisma executives that the FBI has buried. That there has been a $5 million bribe allegation. You're hear no evil, see no evil. Don't point fingers at the right and say you're a cult when your side won't even wrestle with any of the facts. Okay.
Then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in bereavement employing Hunter Biden.
These revelations, if verified, prove Joe Biden's lied repeatedly to the American people and to the American press. Joe Biden has repeatedly stated that he has no idea what his son was doing in Ukraine. He had no idea what his son did for a living, and he never talked to his son about business, and that he never dealt directly with Burisma or fired the prosecutor investigating Burisma for $5 million. Remember, Donald Trump was impeached for zeroing in on this scandal.
How they can bribe and make sure that their interests, whether it's for the Chinese Communist Party or for Ukraine, to be changed in their favor.
If I got any of that wrong, please leave a comment. I would love to debunk it. But I find it interesting that this narrative has changed.
Listen to what House Democrat Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar just said a few minutes ago.
If Jim Jordan wants to continue to chase rainbows, that's fine. I don't think that this is anything that the American public are really too concerned about. I don't think that they're concerned about chasing, a 10-year-old document and what Jim Jordan says he saw from a document or from a whistleblower.
Even if these things are true in the indictment, nobody's going to believe it. And that's a problem for American democracy, as a left would
It was
say.
a grand jury verdict, though. This is the same thing. You're acting
But
as
there's
if
no
it was
way to
just, and the
credibility
jury
problem.
wasn't
It's
full
not
of Andy McCabe, Peter Strzok, and George Soros.
It's just
Biden has become even more powerful, really, than ever before, of course, now that he's president, not just vice president, and, basically running Europe and forcing Putin into a war, which was always the plan in the Biden crime family, to change international politics and to run the cabal in such a way which was the most advantageous for him and other members of the cabal. Right.
I just want to see Vladimir Putin. I'm not afraid of you either. If you're looking for this comedian, I'm at the Ed Sullivan Theater on Broadway in Manhattan.
And isn't it amazing that years after these tapes were made, Ukraine is at war on Joe Biden's watch? And billions of dollars are pouring from our treasury into Ukraine, unaccounted for. When Donald Trump's phone call with the Ukrainian president blew up, what did you hear from the left? Release the transcript. Well, now primetime is calling on the Biden administration, the FBI, and the Department of Justice, release the tapes. It says there's no provision in the act that even permits the archivist to assume control over anything that's personal. And if he did have a decent legal team, they would have just squashed the subpoena immediately with the Presidential Records Act. And you're going to hear it litigated in federal court in Miami. So don't act like this is some sort of slam dunk case. You'll probably lose. You'll probably appeal. It'll go to the Supreme Court. And there is no way in hell the Supreme Court is going to uphold a conviction of a former president, possibly current president, over where a piece of paper goes.
It's not.
There's no dead bodies. There's no bribes. There's nothing. So knock it off. Is the cover-up about money? Is it about power? Or is it about the war in Ukraine? Every Republican politician should be demanding, during any interview, release the tapes before this evidence is destroyed in a war or stuffed in a locker with a transgender shooter manifesto.
What I really find interesting is the changing narrative of Trump's guilt and Trump's involvement in various schemes in the Middle East and billions of dollars to Jared and, all the Russian deals and, blah, 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 blah. You've heard all the libtard, spout before. I won't waste your time with it because, as we all know, it's, all made up, witch hunt, something I can't remember.
That elite Democrats, they do not like you. And she is reconfirming it. I think if I were them, I would say, Hillary, thank you for your service. We are good here. Go enjoy the grandchildren.
But they don't want to be murdered, Dana.
I got something caught in my eye one time. I blinked, and they accused me of winking and flirting. Hunter's sleeping with Chinese spies. The Chinese are lining the Biden's pockets with gifts, cash, and diamonds. And Trump's being charged with espionage. Joe and Barack flew $1 billion in cash to the Iranians in the middle of the night. Trump's being accused of espionage. Trump waved one document in front of an American, and he's putting us at risk. Meanwhile, every Democrat server's getting hacked. Joe's spreading classified documents all over Chinatown. Swalwell's sleeping with spies. Feinstein's being driven by spies.
The new narrative seems to be on so many of these things that Trump did, international deals, payoffs to both him and to other members, and of course, the international crime syndicate, being involved, with China and all that stuff. The Trump people now seems to be that senile old coot who can't even tie his own shoes and needs a shot in the ass just to be able to get up, in the morning and, not speak like a dribbling idiot because, as we all know, he's not cognitively aware. At that same time, he's running this international cabal crime syndicate. We all know that Biden's doing that. Trump's not done anything that Biden hasn't done. The fact is, Biden's just as guilty as Trump.
That his world is a video game, and he's the main player, and everybody around him trying to make his life hell are NPCs, non-playing characters who just provide him with challenges. So he just makes it more difficult to see if he can get to the next level.
You just said that Joe Biden's running an international cabal, and that he should be locked up because he's crooked and in with China and blah, 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 and all that other shit you said. But now you're saying that Trump only did what Biden did. Well, if Biden should be locked up for his international dealings and for the documents that he kept in Chinatown, shouldn't Trump be locked up for his international dealings and for the documents that he kept at his fucking club?
Donald Trump has said repeatedly that he did nothing wrong. Do you believe that?
Well, here's what I believe. We live in an America where if you're the Democratic candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, you can set up a private server in your basement to conduct government business, and when an investigation is had about your activity... No, let me finish.
But you didn't answer the question.
That was ridiculous. Well, yeah, I'm trying to answer the question from a Republican point of view. That may not be acceptable on this show.
Bad week for Uncurious George.
You've got these investigations in Delaware that are 1,000 times more serious by a sitting president who has authorized his DOJ to try to sink the candidacy of his prime opposition while that guy has unsecured documents that he stole out of a skiff dozens of years ago. So, look, we're not talking about some sort of favoritism.
What are you talking about? That is a ridiculous statement.
There's this issue. Nice try.
I don't think you have the evidence to back up any of the charges you just made.
It's a full-on counteroffensive by Republicans.
What this truly is, Dana, is an affront to the rule of law. It's an affront to consistent application of the law. You had Secretary Clinton, who had classified material on a server. She was not president of the United States. She was Secretary Clinton. You have that happen. Nothing happens to her. When you have two people who do the same thing, and one has the standard that I've talked about, but the only one who gets indicted is the Republican. The only one who gets indicted is the one who was actually president, who did it the right way. Oh my goodness. That is what the American people see.
Was that a good look for the former president to have boxes in a bathroom?
I don't know. Is it a good picture to have boxes in a garage that opens up all the time? A bathroom door locks.
A bathroom door locks.
They want to make the point that Trump never did anything that Biden didn't do. They want to make the point that Biden should be locked up and go to prison forever. Hell, he should be executed because he's eating babies. But Trump didn't do anything wrong.
They're shaming the media for being dishonest and telling their audience things the audience has never even heard before.
The former president is accused of misleading law enforcement, of a conspiracy of obstructing justice. That's a different set of facts. Are you prepared to defend him as the former president, and what other actions will the House take in the House Judiciary Committee in terms of funding?
Are you prepared to defend your network, CNN?
I'm
answering your question. You could ask me any question you want, but I'm entitled to answer the question, okay? You can't put words in my mouth.
The problem with Republicans is that they don't really think anywhere farther past, the bumper sticker. If it doesn't fit on like a 9x3 little box, and have, anything bigger than like a 6-letter word, you've already lost them. That's why none of them are still watching this video. I lost them about
5 hours ago.
Y'all take it easy. I'm Zachariah, Lone Star Liberal.
I mean, come on. That's not chasing rainbows. That's actually doing the job we were elected to do by the American people.
All right, you get the last word there.